Hey Schoolbots fam, hope you're having a great day. In this video, Kyle and I are interviewing the CEO and co-founder of ManyChat, the leading chat marketing platform. Now, ManyChat is the best tool that we have personally found over the last 5 years to build our messenger bots on, and now our Instagram DM automation campaigns as well. So keep watching, especially if you're a marketer or a social media manager, if you want to learn about how Instagram DM automation works. Thank you so much, Mikhail, for joining us today for this interview. Really excited to dive more into overall chatbot marketing, your vision for the future, what you're seeing in the space, because you're one of the few people who has some of the deepest and most important insights in the space. So obviously, always such a pleasure to speak with you. And for anybody who is not aware, Mikhail is a CEO and co-founder of ManyChat, the leading chat marketing platform. So without further ado, I want to dive in, but thanks again for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Natasha and Kyle, and the whole School of Bots team. Really excited to be here, and we'll share everything that we know.
Awesome. So as I mentioned, you guys are one of the leaders and definitely making a splash. And when it comes to the chatbot market space, to the messenger space, you guys have definitely been the leaders there. And now you're looking at omni-channel, which I know is a big part of your vision. So what is ManyChat on a mission to do right now for the coming years? And what is your overall vision for the company as you guys start to go more omni-channel?
So the vision for the company is hasn't changed from back in 2015 when we started on Telegram. And there is a shift that's happening right now, the way that people communicate with themselves. They use messaging apps, right? That's just where the majority of our communication happens. And if you want to understand how businesses are going to be communicating with their customers in the next 5 years, you can look at how people are communicating with themselves. So it's a story that has been repeated over and over again. Say like email marketing, right? First, people start to use it for themselves. Then when there is an option to there's a lot of attention in that channel, businesses want to be a part of that conversation. Same thing goes for social media, right? People start to use it for themselves. As soon as that creates a pool of customer attention, businesses want to be part of that conversation. Same thing goes for messaging apps, but in this case, it's a bit deeper because of how much you could do with messaging apps. It's not just about like notifying people. You can actually have the whole customer flow inside one channel, the lead qualification, first of all, acquisition, so lead generation, lead qualification, nurturing, the actual conversion, and then the service. And all because this is such an interactive channel that's also integrated into e-commerce. The vision, when we started initially, the vision was very, very simple. It was like newsletters on Telegram, right? We wanted to do like just broadcasting. But then it really quickly evolved into solving the whole customer communication challenge for businesses who are now going into new channels. And messenger marketing as a term was actually born in like December 2015. And at that point, we were already talking about, hey, we've got to integrate with all of the messaging platforms and solve the whole lifecycle thing. But it turns out that you need a lot of time to actually achieve that. So in a few months, we integrated with Facebook Messenger, and we started doing messenger marketing primarily focused on using Messenger as a substitute to what people would be doing in email marketing. And it had a lot of things really went really well. Some of the things like with the Facebook changes, people had to adapt and figure out how to go with all the policy changes. But now I think what people need to always remember is that this is not some short-term thing. This is not like a thing that's like a hype type of thing. Like this is the channel, like the flavor of the month or something, right? Kind of like email and social media that were talked a lot about for a long time and then just became a natural part of the marketer's arsenal. Same thing will happen with chat. It's an inevitable transition because of how much customer attention is on these apps. And with right now we're launching Instagram, Instagram is such a huge channel. Like you guys are in the beta, like you are already, like we've been talking behind the scenes, and you were saying like, hey, like some of the results are like like out of the out of this world, right? Like 800% increase in the number of leads. Like that's one of the things that I read on your blog. Like it's amazing what you could do when you put automation and great content and great marketing on top of, obviously, like the fundamental thing that you should have is a great product. But then if you add great marketing and automation with this, is just the results are you cannot like stop those results from happening. So I think the vision is to expand into more and more platforms. On one hand, that's one, it's a horizontal type of play, right? So we're adding Instagram, we're adding WhatsApp, we're probably going to be adding more channels like Apple iMessage, Google Business Messages, things like Telegram. Also, a lot of people are really excited about web chat. So having an independent solution for the web chat for the websites. That's one thing, right? The other thing is like exploring the whole communication lifecycle. So right now, a lot of things that people are doing is in terms of acquisition and lead generation, right? But on Instagram, you have re-engagement through posts and stories. So you're talking to the same audience. It's less about that lead generation as like growing the audience. It's more about re-engaging the audience in no pun intended, in an engaging way, in a way that can actually converts and gets people to certain action that business is looking for. So a lot like the future of ManyChat is definitely, one thing is more channels, the other thing is more use cases, and we want to help you. Like our mission is to help you grow by building meaningful relationships. So how can we help you build more of those relationships with your customers on the channels that they are actually using and that they're already excited about? I think that's where the power comes from.
Yeah, and we absolutely agree with you in the sense that, chat marketing is a pillar that's kind of long-term here to stay. But it's funny when this has been 5 years ago, F8 kind of, Mark Zuckerberg at F8 kind of announced, for the first time, showed everyone 1-800-Flowers. Kind of people like me were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Where is this going? I remember back then thinking like in 5 years from now, I remember that number, like 5 years, everyone's going to be in on this. Like it'll be just like Facebook ads, right? Where all the marketers are doing this. So we're about 5 years almost exactly from when that happened. And it doesn't seem obviously like a whole rush of like the whole world of marketers is doing that. I would be curious to hear your opinion on like where on a typical adoption scale, do you think we are? You've got like the innovators, the early adopters, the majority, the late majority, the laggards. Like where do you think we are right now on that overall adoption scale?
I think we're kind of like at those like early adopters type of place. I think a lot of people have gotten a taste. I think a lot of people have tried and like put their tiptoed into the water and like try to do it. And then a lot of them like realize that you have to like actually put a lot of effort and thought into how you run those chat marketing campaigns and how you actually implement this into your business. It's not like a really, it's not just like get subscribers and like do broadcast. There's more nuance to it than, let's say, like email marketing, but the results could be the results that you can achieve with the channel is also much higher. So like we've seen people who would be at scale getting from, let's say, a $5 per lead to something like $2 per lead. That's such a big increase if you think about this at scale. Like if you're spending $100,000 and you're getting, let's say, 20,000 leads for that 100,000, right? And if you're now getting 50,000 leads for that same 100,000, that's a major change for your business. Like the way that I think that this is going to evolve is that you know how the hype curve works. Like something gets overhyped, then it drops down, and then it starts to slowly grow into like that plateau of productivity, right? I think that with all the changes and everything else, we're kind of like now starting to grow into like, I think chatbots were all the rage in like 2016, 2017. Like those were the 2 years, like it was just exploding and everybody was writing articles. Then in 2018, 2019, people were like kind of like saying, okay, so where is that revolution? Like, why haven't chatbots like changed and completely overtaking apps or websites, et cetera, et cetera? And I think what people don't understand is that it's not about like completely substituting a certain channel or like killing email, as much as we like to joke about that, or like changing like the websites or anything. Every channel of communication happens to like whenever something becomes available, it just fits into the overall picture, right? The you like the internet didn't like completely kill let's say, I don't know, things like magazines or physical
Newspaper,
mail
radio, yeah.
or radio or some or television for that matter, right? Even though it has drastically decreased the importance of those channels. So basically, it dramatically decreased the importance of some of those channels, but it didn't like completely kill them, right? And I think that same thing with, like, for example, with messaging, right? Did messaging completely kill SMS? It didn't completely kill SMS. SMS still has its place in the world. It's just over the top messaging, OTT, basically, right? The third party, the messaging over internet, has like dominated that space. Has it killed voice calls? Right? Didn't kill voice calls, but like there's in a lot of places where you would call somebody now, you would rather just text. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like this like be on the call yourself or distract somebody else. So I think the way that people just love to like dramatize, and like marketers like also do that. Like I remember one of the panels that we were doing, I think back in like something like 2018 or something, is like email is dead, like long live messenger marketing or something like that. And in the end, you have to really think about how those channels are going to evolve. And I think email is a great channel, delivers a lot of value. If you're using like voice, like also a great channel. Like if you can make that channel work for your business, for your use case, that's great. What I think that people should, what not everybody understands, is that messaging is not going away, not because like we wanted so ManyChat or somebody else or School of Bots or anybody else. It's because customers are using it. And that's why, like, if you go outside US, actually, I would say, I would actually argue that already, like, it starts to get into the early majority for countries who have skipped, like, let's say, email as a channel of communication. So countries like in South America, countries like Brazil, certain countries in Eastern Europe, definitely Asia, where business already, like, it's expected of a business to be responsive on a messaging app, right? So you would be able, like you would see those numbers if you travel, like for everybody who's traveling to, let's say, Central America, to Mexico or anywhere, you're going to see that most of the numbers have a WhatsApp logo next to their number.
Why do you think that is?
So I would say,
you sorry to cut you off, but like, why do you think that is? You said earlier, because you think it's they skipped the email time, right? Like, is that mainly what you think it is? Is that everyone had access to instant messenger, they skipped email, and so they were already, that consumer behavior habit was kind of already there between businesses and consumers?
Yeah, I think, first of all, you always have to look at the difference between the status quo and where we are going. Like, the bigger the gap, the faster the transition is going to happen. So, for example, in the US, for example, the adoption of like PayPass happened slower than, let's say, in Russia, where where there were no magnetic stripe readers at the beginning, right? So like people went to straight to chip, right, instead of and then to PayPass, instead of like going through these iterations. And the reason that this would happen is because, like, if you're, for example, US is leading in, let's say, credit card technology, and we already have all these terminals that are across the country. So now changing all of those terminals is a big cost, but the value of changing those terminals is like, yeah, you get better security, but like is it really worth like, I don't know how many millions would the change of the terminals cost. So I think that this is what happened in China, where like people didn't have desktop internet. Like they went straight into mobile internet, and that's why right now, if you look at China and Asia overall, you'll have like 80% of online sales in dollar terms are happening over mobile phones.
Yeah.
And for US, that number is going to be closer to like 45, 50%. That's a huge difference in behavior. And the reason for that, again, is that US was faster to adopt desktops. So now there is a system that's already working, that people have desktops, they have online, they're used to online to shopping on desktop. And so adoption of mobile shopping is slower. That said, we should say that like the eMarketer has projected that mobile shopping for US is going to grow to something like 60% by 2023. So it's still going in the same direction, but that difference plays a key role. If the pain from the problem, from like the difference between status quo and what's proposed is smaller, then the adoption will happen slower. Another example, texting. You know that US in terms of messaging apps is actually again was slower than other countries to adopt messaging. The reason for that is because US carriers were the innovators, and they introduced free texting before anybody else in the world. So like the number one reason people switch to WhatsApp, for example, right, or for other apps like Telegram, would be because texting was actually costing them money. So it was such a huge pain. You're like spending real dollars texting your friends, or you could be spending almost nothing because the data rates are cheap, and not only sending text but also photos, videos, audio messages, etc., etc. So that's why like WhatsApp and other messaging apps grew like wildfire. While in the US, they had a much more cooler reception because people already had free texting through the free rates from carriers. But now still like iMessage and the power of the default, there's also like, and the amount of things that now you can do on messaging apps it still creates that difference between the status quo. So now people messaging is also a huge thing in the US for obviously, but I think that's the key thing. So coming back to the question, I think that's what you have to look for, is that where that difference is. And in a lot of countries, they leapfrog desktop, they leapfrog email, and they go straight into messaging. And for them, being as a business, being on the messaging app is as intuitive and as expected as having a phone number, right? Mm-hmm. If you're not on WhatsApp and you live in Brazil, like that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can I talk to you as a business if I cannot send you a WhatsApp message?
Yeah.
And in the US, it's just, it will take more time because of how good the infrastructure already works. But do not get do not get the illusion that this is somehow taking longer. I think in a lot of countries, it's already like in full force. I just think that it's the transition is the same as electric cars, right? Not for the environmental reasons, but for like, it's just a better way to communicate. You get better results.
Like that
and the
analogy.
Overall thing, it's like kind of like a one-way type of street light. You can only go one way. There's no way like there's no country that's like, hey, we tried messaging apps. Sure, they're fun, but like we went back to email.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's a technological like one-way type of street where like the deeper you go, the more messaging adoption you get, the more people spend time on these apps, the better they get, the more the dense the network. And whoever like I think what ManyChat is good at is applying messaging apps specifically to the marketing use case and to like creating those conversions. And the faster you learn how to use that, and the faster like you, and obviously like you should find some teachers to like somebody like School of Bots, obviously, because this way you're gonna save like months and months of like trial and error, like
Yeah.
figuring out stuff like how to do stuff. But um, there's so many, as I've said, there's so much nuance into how to build those conversations, how to ask questions, which answers to provide to the user. It's people talk about copywriting, but like in the chatbot space, it's more around like you're you're kind of like building the whole like UX in terms of what are going to be the buttons, how they're going to be placed, which images you're going to use, et cetera. It's much more interactive experience, and it takes more effort to learn it. Again, the results are worth it, but the faster you're going to get yourself into this, the faster like you're going to build an edge. If you're interested in this aspect of marketing, is definitely something that will only grow in value with the introduction of platforms like Instagram and WhatsApp and others. It's just there is not going to be enough people who are doing this well, and we're already seeing that. Like so, there the it's a huge blue ocean for people to start serving.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first, folks. We are still in the early adopter phase. As much as I have convinced myself many times over the years that this space should be moving faster, and we've got to be in the in the next stage of this industry. It's nice to hear you say that. Yeah, when you take a step back and kind of look at it from 30,000 feet, you're right. We very much are still in that first early adopter phase, and it's really exciting because I wanted it to go faster, but it feels like it should be going this slow. Like I'm glad that it took Facebook this long to give us Instagram. Because imagine if they would have opened that up 3 years ago, right? Like without people like us figuring out how to actually deliver real value to customers inside of messaging apps so that it doesn't feel like email 2.0, so they don't start thinking about bots in the term of, all of the negative connotations that we have previously thought of bots on Instagram, right? So I'm kind of like grateful in the respect that both ManyChat and Facebook have kind of taken the time to try to make the best decisions possible in regards to the actual consumer. Because if you guys, as the platform leaders, Facebook and yourself, are really thinking of that end user experience, at the end of the day, it's going to make it much easier for us to create valuable experiences and not those bad experiences that lead people to have a bad taste in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. So to move then a little bit more into the near future as well, we've all been focused on Messenger primarily for the last 5 years, and now that Instagram automation is coming, we're both talking about it. From a high level view, how do you think Instagram automation is going to affect the industry from whatever standpoint you want to share?
Oh, I think that's going to be huge because Instagram might be even bigger than Messenger in terms of the impact, to be honest. The reason behind that is because Instagram is such a engaging channel where people spend so much time, and you also have this. I think without like when Facebook Messenger removed the subscription permissions, and like we're getting technical here for those of you who
Yeah.
are not familiar, basically it removed the certain, like you used to be able to have a much broader sense of like the use cases that you can broadcast people to, and you could re-engage people. Now it's only like 3 specific use cases that you can broadcast to people about. On Instagram, like stories and posts do that job. Like they re-engage people, and they can get people back into the conversation, and that opens up a lot of opportunity to engage with your audience in very innovative ways. And I think that the value that you could get there is even bigger than on Messenger in that specific respect, because there is this re-engagement channel because of the organic reach that you have on Instagram when you're posting. So and the other thing is because of how much commerce is happening on Instagram, how many e-commerce brands are there, how many influencers are there. There's all these ways that you can leverage automation to increase your conversion rates and to capture like better results for your business. So yeah, I definitely think that Instagram is going to be very, very important for the whole industry, and to kind of like remind the world how important chat automation is.
Yeah, we are completely on the same page and are looking at it from that standpoint as well. And I think that's one of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently is how Instagram does have that leverage of the social network and the DM being so close together. Whereas WhatsApp and Messenger, even though they're both highly used and two of the top messaging platforms in the world, it's still not fully tied to a social network. So I think in that same respect, as you said, Instagram opens up the floodgates with a little bit more obvious of use cases as well, right? And something that's more near and dear to what social media managers are having to deal with, customer support people. It's just a more immediate challenge than, oh, we could do these things with Messenger, we're going to boost this, versus Instagram, we're going to solve, this overwhelm of DMs that social media managers are having to deal with every single day. So I do feel from that standpoint as well, people can maybe better understand the solution that they're looking for with Instagram. And I don't know if we haven't really covered it here, and I know you've talked a little bit about it on other interviews recently on Clubhouse and whatnot, but around how simple some of the use cases are and the features, it's definitely much different than Messenger, because even when Messenger launched, and you know this better than us, there's so many different types of media templates and structures and formats you can do inside of Messenger, which creates more complexities for the builders, people who are newer to this. Like you said, it takes a lot of time, and we've learned that better than most as well when it comes to like testing out so many things. So I think Instagram has done a great job of narrowing down the scope, whether that was their intention or not, to actually have very simple features, very simple initial use cases that are obviously helpful to those social media managers. And then from there, as interoperability becomes a thing, they may up those features, as we know from the beta and whatnot. But definitely from that standpoint, I think that, like you said, it opens up this whole new market of businesses and marketers who understand the value of it more clearly than maybe Messenger was a little bit more obscure, more widespread.
Yeah, it was kind of frustrating, right? Like people, it seemed like, and Mike, the types of companies we've worked with and stuff. Like it seems like people just like weren't really giving Messenger the respect that it deserved. Like the respect that we knew that it deserved. Because we're over here like looking at these numbers and we're like, oh my gosh, like every business on the planet needs to be looking at this channel and figuring out if there's a way for them to take advantage of this channel, right? And it feels like for me, like my big breath of relief is that with Instagram, that's not going to be the fight at all. It's going to be it's finally going to bring the FOMO. It's finally going to bring wait a minute, you can do this on the app that I use 4 hours a day. Oh my gosh, we need to get into this, right? So I think that's kind of why I'm excited about Instagram, because from the marketers, like most of the marketers that we deal with, they're 25 to 40, right? So what are they doing? They're spending all of their time on Instagram when it comes to the apps that they're using on their phone, right? So being able to like talk to them in their own environment, right, is gonna completely change the way I think they start to perceive what we're doing as marketers inside of these channels. I guess it kind of piggyback
for sure. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, there's actually another question I wanted to ask. Like, maybe let's see if we can put you in like the consumer, like the user's shoes. So as Instagram starts to become available, how do you think consumers are going to perceive, or how are they going to interact with both Messenger and Instagram? Let's say in like 3 or 4 months when things are kind of fully firing.
Yeah, I think you are going to see a lot more people who are going to use Instagram automation in very innovative ways to create those connections. It's going to become much, much more interactive. Instead of like leading you to a website or just like keeping you watching stories or posts, it's going to be every smart, savvy marketer who is going to be starting to leverage Instagram automation is going to start to build that personal connection at scale with their following through the DMs. And I think it's going to be such an interesting situation from a consumer standpoint. I think I'm just waiting for that to happen. I've been testing some of the flows, and it's fun. It's you get to interact with the brands and to hear their tone of voice, even though it's automated. Doesn't really matter because people have written that, right? The marketers who are sitting behind that brand have taken the time and written that, and they did a great job. then I'm going to have a good time talking to the and getting the value that was basically talked about either in the story or in the post. So yeah. And I think the key thing that also is on Instagram, like for people to understand how this is going to be handled, is that there is still the 24-hour window, right? So like the business will not be able to just like the Instagram business account will not just be able to like spam you or send you a lot of messages after you interact with the business. And I think it's really important to understand that all of those interactions are going to be driven by the customers themselves because they looked at a post or at a story and wanted to get that piece of value that was talked about there. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one last question then that I have for you to go back to the people who are going to help make all this happen. Do you think at this point now, 5+ years into this, that every type of marketer should understand what's happening with chat marketing and maybe even know some of the basics? Like, for example, every marketer knows how email marketing works. It's much more simple, but just as a comparison, right? And they can understand the concept of email funnels, what types of emails you might have, et cetera, the rules around that. So when it comes to chat marketing, and we're looking, I guess, at all the channels, but to the ones that are currently somewhat available, Messenger and Instagram, do you think that every marketer is suited to both understand about this and pursue it? Or do you think there are certain types of marketers or people with certain marketing skill sets that could best push this space forward and help businesses with this tech?
yeah, I think the reason that we all know how email marketing works is because we all experienced email marketing. Kind of like every person in the world, not even marketers, knows how email marketing works. And I
That's
think
true.
that what this is going to open up with Instagram, I think, is that it's going to be that every person in the world will know how chat marketing works because all of them will actually experience chat marketing because the innovative folks at those brands have actually people like you guys who have worked with clients and have actually implemented chat marketing with them. It's how billions of people around the world will actually experience chat marketing for themselves, and then it's going to become much more not only acceptable, but people will understand, oh, I want to do a campaign like this. Like the best way you can teach about chat marketing is for somebody to experience a great chat marketing campaign themselves and for them to think about it and say like, oh man, this was awesome. I want to do this for my business. How do I do this? And that's when they start to search for a solution for training and get into this space. I think it's a much harder thing. Like for example, with Messenger, still you like we got like billions of people who have interacted with bots powered by ManyChat, but I think it's also a frequency thing, right? If you just interacted once, like
Right.
you haven't really paid attention. Like how many email newsletters did you need to get? How many drip campaigns did you need to get yourself familiar with like what great email marketing looks like and what not so great email marketing looks like, right?
Mhm.
I think that after people get through like 10, 20 interactions of and chat marketing, that's when they're like, okay, like they start to get a feel for this. And I think that's where the pendulum is going to swing in the other direction, where like we're going to basically tip over that steep learning curve and understanding like because if you start from scratch like you guys know this better than I do, like in terms of going into the market and say like, hey guys, this is super awesome, this is great, like let me tell you how this works, and you're telling them and they're like not really getting it. They're like it's really hard to uh, visualize unless you like show a video or like have them interact with a chatbot. Like if you just try and explain it in words, like it's an automation and you like write a word and it replies with like buttons. Like imagine like little buttons, but they're already pre-filled so you can like one tap them and like each one of them responds like in a different like, and they're like, what are you talking about, right? Like how is this going to help my business? And you can talk about the results, but then when you want to excite somebody, you want to not only talk about results, but have a really simple way to tell a story how what's going to be the unique way for people to get those results that they're going to actually be excited about and believe in. And I think Instagram is going to show the whole world how this channel works and what is possible with this channel. And the more campaigns people do, the more innovative, the more exciting they are, the more people will turn to chat marketing. So yeah, I think this is going to expand the acceptance and the knowledge around chat marketing, and then people will start, the best of them will actually get so interested in this that they will start to search looking for solutions, and that's how the whole market is going to expand.
So you're just saying that me and Natasha have to keep doing what we're doing, creating awesome customer experiences inside of Instagram and Messenger using ManyChat, and then all the marketers will follow.
Yeah, it doesn't always work, but like build it and they will come. Like you have to build it and also promote it to the right initial audience so that you become that center of attention, right? So that when more and more people start to grow and like when that inbound traffic starts to build up, you're the number one go-to solution. So I think that's how it's not just build it, but like it's the product is probably the most important thing.
Well, yeah, that's why, as educators, we've always said like our most important role is not educating, even though like our mission at Schoolbots is to kind of push this space forward through education. Like that's not our main focus or our primary role at all. Our primary role has to always be creating those experiences, right? Like helping people, like actually being in the trenches, understanding what's working so that we can, that's the real way to guide the industry in the right way, right? Is to be, to be in there, like making sure like, hey, I know this works because we just sent it to 1 million people. So if you do this, you can kind of expect those same results.
Yeah. You're on the other, like there's so many people like who want to teach without really knowing, like without really putting in the effort and without really putting in like without getting those money. Results or yeah, exactly. And I think what's going to separate people like you guys is people who actually know their stuff and who can consistently get results are going to be like, are always going to, in the end, in the long term, are going to win because they're not going to be tarnished by like, oh, I tried this and it didn't really work, or like this or that. Yes. Because you've built those, like you actually go out and in this world, if you're not building it, if you're not really applying it, if you're not talking to customers and like looking at their campaigns and results, your knowledge becomes obsolete really, really fast.
Yeah.
And like, because Facebook changes a lot of, like half a year ago, Instagram was like in a beta that like we barely could talk about, right? Now it's launching. Like how much is this going to change the whole chat marketing space, right? And half a year before that, like Facebook wasn't blocking accounts and like broadcasting subscription permissions, like people were getting away with that. And like, how fast did that change? So like every 3-6 months, a lot of things are changing. So some people don't like it. Some people are like, I don't like, this is too fast for me. Like, I don't want to be, and sure, like you can try and stick to something that is more stable. The thing is, the world is moving in this direction. It's kind of like an inevitable transition. So if you don't pay attention to this, you're just like after a year or two is just going to be, you're going to be too late to the party. Like businesses are going to be built, educator profiles are going to be built, brands are going to be built around the space, and it's going to be too late to like, and you're going to say, oh man, I wish I started earlier, right? But now it's like it's the thing, like when you're trailblazing, the upside is that you're the first one to do it and you get the cream of the crop, like the biggest rewards if you reach the right destination. The downside is like you get hit with all the sticks and like you don't know like which path is the right path, and you're going to make a lot of trial and error decisions. But yeah,
that's where all
if you
the fun
keep going
is.
Yeah, exactly. So for some reason, for people like you, Kyle, right? So I think everybody should just understand what their personality is. I don't think that everybody should be trying to do like one thing. People are not like the same. Like somebody loves to trailblaze, somebody likes to, like for example, have a slower approach to some aspects. And it doesn't mean that one is better or not. Like I think people just need to understand how they want to operate at their core and stick to the thing that works for them. I'm like out loud say like not everybody should be doing like chat marketing, not everybody should be doing like trying to trailblaze, not everybody should be an entrepreneur or like trying to start their own business. I don't think that that's a good message to send. I think that everybody should be trying to get in touch with their internal needs and wants and what really drives them, what their passion is, and spend more time there and spend less time trying to like fit into certain norms or something like that. So
absolutely. No, I love it.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important message without going down that rabbit hole, because that's definitely something I strongly believe in, as well as like not telling everybody the same thing, right? That's almost as bad as school. So with that all being said, if we're go ahead and wrap up from here, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights and your opinions on what's happening, everything that you've been seeing and how things are going to be changing. So thank you again for taking the time to jump on. We appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's listening, if you are curious and excited to get your hands on Instagram automation and are looking for the best platform to do that, to generate leads and revenue from Instagram, check out ManyChat's waitlist. They're currently collecting waitlist registrants right now. And then as that opens up, you'll be able to get first access to their platform. And because we're testing it right now, I can tell you ManyChat is hands down the best tool to get that done. And if you're looking for the best chatbot education, as you guys know, there's no one out there who spends more time and more effort than us putting together, developing our methods, educating and really making sure that this space is moving in the right direction, that we're creating ethical marketers who understand how to drive value on these messaging channels. So I highly encourage you to check out our messenger program, the Chatbot Marketing Accelerator, and we'll be sharing our Instagram automation program very soon. So keep an eye on your email inboxes and social media for those announcements. But thanks again, guys, for taking the time to have this conversation today. I hope it was insightful for everybody who's listening, and look out for more information on Instagram automation.